So hey, you guys, let's do a hello, Tony.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
Welcome. My Tony Schwartz here. Great to be on the 401 show.
All right, we got
Our
Meeks.
third show. We're ready to go.
Hi, Meeks.
Hi,
How
Meeks.
you doing?
What's up? What's up?
Oh yeah, hoops.
In St. Louis.
So we were going to do, we got Eric and Jimmy behind the camera.
Yes.
Are we allowed to give you props, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be like the hidden man behind?
Turn on mic 7.
There you go.
All right, so we wanted to do predictive programming, but we're having some trouble getting images up on screen. So we're going to pick that show up next week. And we're going to talk about some interesting and astonishing quotes from history. And we're going to do it in the form of like a quiz, like a game show.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yay.
Going to do my best to pull this off.
Yeah.
So I just want to know who's going to be playing today. You guys, obviously.
Oh, I'll be playing.
Meigs, you're playing.
Hey, I'm game.
Jimmy, Eric, Charles, are any of you guys playing?
Eric will play.
Sure, I'll play.
I like games.
Love game.
Oh, and we are
Oh,
down.
no, we
Our lead bassist, Sid, is out today. How you doing, Sid? I don't know if she's listening
What's up,
right now,
Sydney?
but we said we'd say hi.
Sydney
We are
Cray.
missing our bandmate.
MIA.
Cray Cray, MIA.
But you know,
Just,
it is the apocalypse around here.
Dude, it's
like,
negative. I mean, we're into the deep negatives.
We're worse than
Minus
Antarctica.
It is.
It was this morning.
I thought global warming was in effect. They keep
Oh,
talking
God.
about it, but it
Hey,
keeps
Trump.
getting colder.
Trump, shut up.
Trump. Do you guys believe? Do you guys
he's an
really
idiot? Yeah, I
believe
do.
that global warming's a thing?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
No,
gosh.
that's what they
It
told
is,
us.
But it's man-made. They won't
Right.
tell you that part of it.
Oh,
It is
sure.
man-made, but it's not the result of factories and exhaust.
Right.
I mean,
Result
let's.
of
It's
asshole
hairspray. The
humans.
aerosol hairspray, right?
We are a conspiracy show, so I can mention things like HARP, chemtrails. Go find out
Sure.
what those really do.
Oh, I
Harp,
know
like
about
playing a
that.
harp.
No.
And that's a HARP with the two A's.
I'll mess with you.
Yeah.
You're
And,
fine.
That
and
has
by
to come
man-made,
into
I
play
meant
for what we're gonna
speak
geo-engineered.
of,
That's
man.
a better way to say it.
Say that again, Meigs.
By man-made, I meant geo-engineered.
Yes.
So they're telling us it's man-made, but for different reasons. I mean, we actually have patents to change the weather with
TED
chemical
Talks.
ice nucleation and stuff.
Now, people think that is, oh, really? We can change the weather.
Oh yeah.
You would be. Do you know how long we've had that ability? Meigs, any guesses?
Vietnam.
Since Vietnam, probably much before that. But at least since Vietnam with Operation Popeye, which is the real thing. It was weather
Tell
warfare.
us what was Operation Popeye.
It was basically they were, I think, doing chemical ice nucleation. They were basically trying to seed clouds to make it rain on top of troops to make the battlefield all muddy. I believe that's what they were trying to do. It was something
That was
with
the
clouds
Vietnamese that were doing that,
seeding.
or us?
Oh, we
Maybe.
would have been doing that.
To drive the Vietnamese out of their tunnels.
Look,
Yeah, we
wars
were-
serve a lot of purposes, not just, I mean, really, what were we doing on a peninsula in Southeast Asia in the mid-60s?
we were saving the Vietnamese, the Cambodians.
That's what I think the press, sure.
Everything, dude. I mean, if you look at every war, it was, we're going to save these people, but we came out of it with something. You know what I mean?
Oh,
We
there's
came out of-
normally a higher agenda,
sure there is.
but the amount of testing we did on our own troops, from psychedelics to weather testing. I knew about the program, I just didn't know it was called Popeye.
Isn't that the monasteric goats?
Yes.
That's
Yes,
about,
I love the big.
That's a
goat.
real.
No, it's a real thing.
That's
I know.
a real unit.
yeah, I know.
And
It's a great movie too, but
the CIA and our military have put so much money into mind control programs of all sorts of degree. I mean, it's incredible the amount and the amount of research they've
you
done.
go back all the way to right after World War One, and when they started developing the A-bomb and the Manhattan Project and all that stuff. That was probably closer to the 30s, mid to late 30s that they started doing all that stuff. But I mean, they were testing in the deserts. You know what I mean? For
Oh, yeah.
years and years and years
Yeah.
before they. So what about all that stuff? All that radiation that they let off into the atmosphere and
Sure.
everything. That doesn't go away.
Well, and
You
there
know what I
are
mean?
like underground storage facilities in St. Louis that are leaking now.
St.
from back
Louis,
then.
be careful, Meeks.
I
Yeah,
go
is
to
there?
North
There's
St.
underground
Louis.
fire.
I'm safe. I'm in South St. Louis.
Yeah.
Is St. Louis going to sink?
I know there was
Oh
a
gosh.
crazy
Well, all that
underground.
stuff was on fire a couple years back. That
That's what he's talking about.
underground nuclear waste receptacle
That's-
facility was like about to catch fire. There were like underground fires and stuff,
Yeah.
and it was gonna go kablooey. But apparently, it was put out in the nick of time or whatever. But like,
Yeah, that's what
why
Tony,
is that even
that's what
there?
Tony was just talking about. And then,
Well, most people don't know it's there. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, all right, we're probably getting way off topic.
No, there is no topic. Just talk.
Just talking. Just talking. Well, even go. I mean, what year was it when the power grid went out?
Here?
Yeah.
2004, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
Blackout?
you know what happened was it was the funniest thing, and this is like way off topic, but I'm a plumber, and we were cleaning a sewer drain out, and we had a camera inside the sewer. And all of a sudden, we saw wires going through. And we were like, what are these wires? Turns out they were like sticks, twigs that had grown through the crock and everything. But we're in there, and all of a sudden, I hit the button that spin the snake, and boom, power went out everywhere. And
You thought you did it.
So we're like, what the hell just happened? So we're running around, and, we go outside, and the
Don't blame
lights are
yourself.
out. Everything was out. And we were like, crap, we just knocked the whole grid out, And the guy pulls up, and he's like, no, man, it was like someone dropped a bomb in Ohio or some crap like that, you know what I mean? Because there was still the radio was still on.
Yeah.
Do you know what kills me though about like last night? For those who are listening who have no idea what's going on in Michigan, it's the most freezing cold we've had in years and years and years. It's like colder than Antarctica's here. And we were asked to turn our heat down for a good reason last night. We were asked to go down to 65 degrees. If it was summertime, it was 65. People are wearing shorts. They're they're in their convertibles with their tops down, and like so many on Facebook.
That was a swear word though.
That's $1 in the jar. Yeah, we're on our way to our first beer after
Sorry,
the
I
show.
feel very strongly about this.
you're
so
fine.
I'm really
Actually,
I'm
she
really-
bought me a Red Bull, so
I
she's
saw
got
you-
a three.
Sponsored by Red Bull.
She has a $3 credit.
Kelly,
So
last
you're
night
only down
you
two
posted
now.
something on Facebook about it, and a bunch of other people did, and there was people arguing about it.
It's
And-
like you.
But the text message that everyone got, the
Yeah,
nationwide
yeah.
text message came through. And
You're
it was,
not my father.
Yeah,
That's
it
what
was
people are
real.
saying.
It was real, basic or whatever. And I think that a lot of people didn't know that plant had blown up earlier in the day,
They didn't give a shit.
caught fire.
Oh, dude, we're gonna be making money today.
JJ.
That's two.
All
We're
right,
gonna
so-
need some.
I'm
I hope
so
you got
sorry.
But
singles.
what had happened was they weren't
angry.
asking us because there wasn't enough gas. There was a huge explosion in a
Right,
plant
it was a
that supplies the
fire.
gas. And what was going on is there was only one other plant around here, and they didn't want everyone to tax that plant and have that one shut
No,
down.
and then 65
everybody
degrees in your
lose,
house
you know
is
what I
like
mean?
the end of the dang
Right, and,
world.
you know,
like,
and
oh
I live
gosh.
in a
Oh, I have children.
I live in a basement, and it's 65 in there when it's 75 in the house. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it's
it
gonna
was
stay
like 50.
cool.
I had a space heater going, and I was fine.
Exactly.
But it's just
you
it's,
can
it's
layer
funny
up
that-
and be a good human about it, or you can just be a jerk about it and post on Facebook how you don't want to do it.
right.
And then just be a
But
jerk.
so my point I'm
Whatever.
bringing all these little things up is what happens when that happens on a nationwide scale.
Oh, we're
You know
all
what I
just
mean?
gonna die because we're
when the
spoiled.
power went out, it was all hell broke loose, man. There was people looting. There was people, and that was here in
Yeah.
Detroit.
Oh, it's
people
coming, baby.
Going to
Yep.
gas stations and stealing ice, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
And then imagine what would have happened last night if everyone loses heat and it's 15 below zero.
Right.
It
40
would have been
below
terrible.
zero. You know what I mean?
So those
That's
people,
where,
I'm
you
gonna
know-
say right now, those people out there who are jerks about it, may karma get you. And that's all
I
I've got
just
to say
saw
about that.
at Walmart they're selling like prepper packs for like to survive for like 2 weeks with dried food and
You
stuff.
should have that.
Yeah, good for you.
I know,
Walmart,
but
or
it's
whoever's
funny
selling
that they're-
it.
If
I
you're
like
going to have
that.
car insurance and you're going to pay for home insurance, you got insurance on your phone, you got insurance on your electronics, but you have no insurance just in case the power goes out. You know what I mean? If you buy one of those, if they last 25 years, it's insurance you can eat. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't think about it like that.
Right.
You really should have that food and water in your house. And like
Yes.
Eric's saying, you probably should have a space heater with propane just in case something like that was to happen. At least you could close up one room and stay
Yeah.
warm.
Yeah.
And look, there's people out there squatting. So there's
I
people.
saw one the other day.
There's people that already know how to live in this environment. So those people, they're gonna find a way.
Yeah.
most people are gonna freak
Yeah,
out.
you get the regular everyday person that, like Kelly was saying, complains and nags on Facebook about this and that. They're the people that are gonna
Ruin it for everybody.
no, they're the people that are gonna die first. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Because
Yeah.
they're gonna be the ones that aren't prepared. They don't have a sleeping bag. They don't. In my car, it's a POS, man. So I got a pair of overalls. I got 2 coats. I got boots. I got blankets. All that crap. And that's a work car. I got all my
Yeah.
tools in there plus all that stuff.
Of course.
Because you need to be prepared. If that
Yeah.
car breaks down, I'm screwed.
Well, and as
know?
much of a prepper as I am one of those guys that would have the quarter tank, but I have slowly with my procrastination, I've gotten better with that and keeping a full tank of fuel because like you're saying, if that was to happen, at least you can spend time in your vehicle to stay warm, to
Right.
keep some type of heat going.
Yeah.
But you only have that fuel.
Right.
Now, like if the power goes out, you don't even have the gas stations to use.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
like we
everything's
think-
digital.
We think
Correct.
we're advanced, exactly. We are now so dependent on a system.
Yeah.
Like if the grid and turning off the grid across the country would be so it's one EMP strike, and actually, ironically, about over St. Louis
Absolutely. Yep.
will pretty much shut down anything electric unless it's in a Faraday cage is fried immediately. Do you have your stuff in a Faraday cage, by the way?
I don't, but I do have it for my wallet.
What's
You
a
know
Faraday cage?
Yeah,
Faraday
I know
cage
what that
is a way to protect electronic equipment from an EMP burst. So an EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse.
Pulse,
It's
yeah.
this little electronic.
Cancer giving.
It's a signal that goes out right before a nuclear warhead is detonated, and it shuts down all electronics.
Wow.
Interesting.
I have the
Oh,
wallet.
see, look
Yeah.
at you go.
So
Look at
you can,
go.
by grounding your electronics. So I've got, like you, I'm prepared for when they shut the power down. In fact, in the early days of waking up to literally how much danger we're in, I was very focused on the physical, on having food and supplies, and because there's going to be a day soon, which comes off of the show we did last week. They're going to on purpose collapse this financial system.
Sure.
And you know me, I'm a Bible guy. The Bible said it was going to happen too. And I now,
Right.
that book has been right about everything. So even the things I can't see or don't even understand, I now have what you would call faith that they're going to happen. And I'm still reminded, and if I mentioned this before, stop me, but I'm still astounded by the J.C. Ryle. Did I mention him?
I don't think I'm.
He was the writer from the 1800s who was writing that he knows for sure Israel is going to be regathered as a nation. He doesn't know how. He does not know when. All he knows is he's writing in the modern era saying it's going to happen, and his only evidence was that it was written in the Bible. And he's writing, it's fascinating to read his work from the circa 1850s. And to have him writing about the reestablishment of Israel as a foregone conclusion 100 years before it happened. So in a lot of ways, he was able to tell the future because he read an ancient book. And there's a lot more of that going on in this world.
Well, when we're talking about prepping, I used to look at it as a very selfish way. Like, I want to be prepared. I want my family.
No, you're going to need to help people
Well,
because
that's my thing. I've become more neighborly now that my faith has been strengthened, right? Like, it's not just about me. My neighbors are going to need help, family members, the people that are close to me, and I pay attention. I already know what trees on my block to take down if I have to cross the road. See? So I can stop traffic. If I need to stop traffic, I already know what pine trees are coming down on Beach Daily. See? To cause havoc. In a way.
for future police officers near Tony's house, when there's a
look
tree
at
down,
you.
Just saying,
what's your address
Of
again?
the
Just
end.
go.
Pay attention. You know what I mean? If you got to stop it, I'd be protecting you.
Charles is going to run out of gas, like trying to get around that.
Grand River's wide for a reason.
So,
People should get seeds too.
Say that
saving
again?
seeds. People should get seeds too. Start saving some seeds so we
Yeah,
can
look, I mean, we're
become
gonna
agrarian again. We can't.
Max.
see if you turn off the power to this nation. The vast majority of us are dead in 90 days. We just don't have the skills or abilities
That's what we were just talking about.
to live off the land. Now, we think we're the smartest generation and the most advanced, but you take away that smartphone or that iPhone, and dude, do you guys ever feel lost? I mean, I'm now even to the point where I'm so dependent on it. Like, I don't know how people had kids. I don't know how I grew up and we went to Disney World. We'll meet back at the fountain at 3 o'clock. Where now today it's, oh, go ahead, just keep your phones on you.
Right.
Well,
I mean, there was a lot more preemptive coordination needed just to get through the day.
an itinerary of what you were going to do. Now it's your phone, and we're gonna text at a certain time and be here at a certain time. But the other thing is,
And someone's still late every time.
Well,
It was me this time, which I apologize about.
well, even for the phone addiction, you see it in relationships. You and I are having a conversation, and
And
next
you're
thing you know,
on
I'm
your-
on
Oh,
the
dude.
phone.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I,
bad for that, and it's gotten me in trouble. But chicks are like, "Hey, I'm talking to you."
Yeah,
And
I-
here it
I
is,
went
you
through
pour
this
into
the
your
other-
phone.
I went-
With this cat video.
I went through this the other night. Was at dinner and I was having a conversation, and I had to repeat my whole conversation because the person I was with was on her phone. the
Yeah,
whole
I don't
time.
even bring it out. I think
It
it's
was like-
kind of, I'm one of those old school. It's
Rude?
It's rude.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Unless you like, hey, do you mind if I take, whatever. But
Right.
it's like,
When you're having a nice dinner and stuff.
sometimes I don't want the world to reach me at
Me
all
too.
places.
My phone's on. My ringer's on off an awful lot. It's like, leave me a message. I'll get right back to you. But I'll say this: I think it's safe to say that those people that wouldn't turn their heat down last night are the ones who aren't going to survive, and the ones who did, they think about things. They're pro humanity, Earth. Like, those are the people that are
So-
probably going to be able to figure out
Three
how to
things.
live a little
One
bit
of them
longer.
last night I noted because my sister typically lives in Arizona. She's visiting right now.
She was like, "Oh my god!"
She received the text message. That's a pretty powerful system.
Oh,
if it
it's
can
her-
send a message to every cell phone in an area.
in the area.
Talk
even if they're
about
out of
control.
state. Yeah,
I mean, whoa. Okay.
it's kind of crazy.
That's just out there that ability's
No,
out there.
that's- I
That's
mean,
kind of
that's-
scary.
You have your location set though. Your location on your phone is usually on.
Well, hold on. Here,
What's that?
5G.
Oh, well, the 5G is going to... They transmit a signal at 440 megahertz. Our bodies are designed to be in, like, a perfect equilibrium around 400 megahertz. At 440, there is, like, massive disruption going on, like, at a cellular level.
Wow.
And some of the capabilities of these things. Have you seen the guys that have climbed up those towers to take readings?
Yeah.
These things are
They can't, or
they're
Yeah.
all the jokes about power lines making us crazy. I think was actually somewhat predictive programming for what we're.
Right.
So to put a little closure on something, that the storing of food. Now when I did it, it was self-preservation. This is before God, before anything. I'm like, oh my God, there's an evil cabal. They're going to take over the world. We need to, arm ourselves and get ready to fight this coming tyranny.
sure.
So then along the way, I figured out, oh, this is all biblical. This is what the Bible was talking about. Oh, now we can prepare. So the preparation shifted from physical to now it's like 99% spiritual, 1% physical. And this one Christian, I don't know where this occurred to him. It's biblical. But they're like, one of the things, the reason it's important to have food. This is a hardcore Christian perspective. And it was because when the time comes, you need something that God can bless and multiply the same way that 2 pieces of bread and 5 fish were turned into enough food to feed 5,000,
Yeah.
as the story goes. Now, from my perspective, as a guy that was born in 68 and went to conventional schooling, that to me just seems impossible. And I can't explain it. I really can't.
The miracle, you mean?
Correct.
Correct.
It's one of those
What's
things
the
where where in my prior life I would have looked at this and gone, okay, well, this is just a book of allegories and myths because you can't multiply a fish.
That's where I'm at.
Sure.
All right? And that one I still don't understand how it happened. But that
Well,
one
I
I
mean,
now
look at-
that one I now believe it did. I don't know.
Look at how you have a tiny seed and you plant it and it produces all kinds of fruit or whatever. I mean, that's a miracle.
Well, if you can believe creation versus evolution, then having fish multiply or even, the earth get formed by God's breath is not. We're talking about something, and
Hey, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan.
This
no,
is,
I'm just kidding.
That's magic.
No, I actually am, but
Yeah, that's talk about indoctrination into the occult through. So a Faraday cage, just to close that out, you can build one at home with like an aluminum trash can. You can get one of those little metal trash cans that sell at any hardware store. Line the interior of it with cardboard. Okay? So
Okay.
there's no metal exposed. Once you've got this bin that's metal on the outside, cardboard on the inside, you can dump all your electronics in there. Batteries, flashlights, radios, anything you think you might need. You got to put the lid back on it, and you got a Faraday cage.
Really?
oh wow,
Made at home.
No, it doesn't have to contain
Simple.
lead.
No.
Okay, so you can do it.
It's just
with-
metal, right?
What about
Just
like a
a
galvanized
metal.
can, or it has to be aluminum, conductive metal? So it has.
A microwave is a
Look,
fairly-
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not a
I'm with you.
machinist here, but
No
I built one according
Okay.
to the.
instructions. Yeah,
I mean, you guess you won't know if it works until
it happens.
the day after.
Right.
Oh, I screwed up my Faraday cage.
Well, I think
We don't have anything.
I thought it was more
They
complicated.
do work, you know, and they certainly do work, and a lot of people that are being targeted now are targeted individuals that have electronic microwave weaponry being used on them. They
like
build
Katy
their own
Perry.
Faraday.
Well,
And they do work. You just have to surround yourself with metal, either like aluminum or whatever kind of metal.
I'm getting braces.
that's the whole
darn it.
tinfoil helmet thing that's tied to conspiracy
Exactly,
theory that
but
people
if it
always
works, it works.
accuse you
Yeah.
of.
I'm gonna wear with a
right?
headgear.
Well, look,
or I'm walking
the-
around with a headgear on.
You got to understand, look, if Satan's trying to deceive the world, and he's going to try and deceive the world into praising him. So I don't think you're going to have like the Muslims beat the Hebrews or the Hebrews beat the Christians or the. I don't think it's. What's that?
That was me.
Oh. I don't think there is. It's not like there's going to be a religion that wins, because that won't fly. Basically, something's going to have to happen where
Love will win.
exactly it will.
I know.
That is what. Say he's not going to come in with horns and war. He's coming in with love and unity, and there's going to be a nice, peaceful time for a couple of years, and then so it all really begins when the Antichrist, and we will know the identity of the Antichrist when he cuts a deal with Israel, a peace deal, bringing finally peace to the Middle East. This guy that has done the impossible that was not able to be done throughout history. And now, by the time we get to
It's
that
gonna be
point,
one of the Jonas Brothers. I know.
Yeah,
it.
it's very
I'm just
possible.
joking.
Real quick, Glenn Ross DeMason is listening via Facebook Live, and he says popcorn cans work, and anything with a circuit board or HD is what's susceptible to the EMP.
Hippie
So,
Glenn.
Pop the
5-gallon
metal
can?
popcorn cans that you get
Really?
for Christmas. He said it's metal.
You just
fair.
wear it
Throw
around
whatever
on
you
your
need
head
in
all
there.
day.
No,
You get those at
you
Salvation
throw your
Army all the
phones and
time,
your
guys.
electronics
Yeah,
in there,
I'm
so
just
then
joking.
Yeah, just in case.
when the EMP hits, you're all good. And he also said David Haddad. I don't know.
David
where,
Haddad. Oh, I
yeah,
know Dave. Hi,
says,
Dave.
Since
Hi, Dave.
Since
What's up,
we,
Dave?
the people, lost possession of our real money in 1935, we, the people, are lab rats over and over and over again.
That's
Oh,
He
yeah.
who
last
has the
week's-
gold
Oh,
makes
yeah.
the rules.
Yeah.
Interesting that he
yeah.
brought that up because there was a law, and I think it was 1933, that basically said if you have gold, you have to turn it in. This was part.
Yeah.
We are on. See, we think in human terms, like we think 50 years is a long time. Like these guys have been planning this, going back a long. And even they themselves don't see the big picture. Nor do I think they really believe they are working for the devil. At some point, there is a level at which they realize this, but they actually believe that Satan was wrong and this is going to be corrected around the time of Armageddon.
The ones that are awake, I would say, like a somebody like a Jay-Z, they know whether they're playing with these with
Jay-Z is
magic.
a great example.
But, you know,
too.
reading Aleister Crowley, these guys are playing. Even Jimmy Page, they talk about these. A lot of these rock stars that have gone on to that side, maybe they're looking
Yeah.
for say, like an artist would to write his next book, right? An author would get into something, or like you would. You have to study these things in order to have the background or the resources. But if you start getting pulled into that, a lot of these stars will very easily, and then you're led down the wrong path.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
like I wonder about it, and I have only started talking about this story in the last year. It was something that happened about 10, 12, maybe 15 years ago. Only because I don't like name dropping. It just sounds like
Douchey.
you're bragging. Yeah, douchey, like
I
you're
know
bragging.
Shelters.
So you obviously know, like,
He's a badass.
the Bushes have been involved in the dark side. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind from...
The Sith.
I mean, they were related to... we were going to show this on the predictive programming part of the show, but think about this like this. What are the two biggest events in recent and modern history for you guys? What are the top two? Two biggest like news events that happened.
9/11.
9/11 and the Iraq War, probably for me.
So, like the first Iraq War, or the one?
Would you say that was a bigger deal than, say, the shooting of President Kennedy? Or would you put JFK up in the top?
Well, we weren't around then, but
Well,
That's
yeah,
a modern
I would-
era, but I
no,
mean,
I would
no,
say
that-
JFK is a major.
JFK I think would be the number one, other than 9/11. Would be, in my opinion, modern day, like from 1960 to today.
yeah, let's say since World War II.
Since World War II, then yeah, for sure.
Okay. Does everyone agree? I mean, I've asked this
Two
to
of the
probably
biggest
50
conspiracy
people.
theories,
Like, those
man.
are probably the top two, right?
Yeah.
What's the third? What would you guys say is the third for you?
Are we talking
Kurt
conspiracies
Cobain
or
died.
events?
No, I'm
Well,
just
a
joking.
little bit of both. You know, these controversial events.
Exxon Valdez was a huge
Space shuttle.
space shuttle
Oh,
blown up. Just
yeah,
happened to
that's
we're
a
on
good
the
one.
20
Oklahoma
anniversary.
City, maybe.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
Waco,
Oklahoma City.
right?
Yep.
Sandy Hook, maybe.
there's a lot
It's
of them.
Major event, yeah.
Well,
Park
there's
Road.
a...
Ruby Ridge.
All right, so we know Bush was involved in John F. Kennedy. Are you guys there? Like, have you guys...
He was in the CIA.
Okay.
Senior. We're talking
More than
senior.
just the CIA. I mean, they had sub-operations named after his little oil company in Cuba, Zapata Oil. He always used to name his aircraft or his things after... He's linked
Talking
to...
about Bush Senior.
Bush Sr. linked to JFK very heavily. There was a lot of involvement with Bush, the CIA, in the assassination of JFK.
Absolutely.
Then on 9/11, George Bush's son, and I don't think he's the mastermind. I think he found out about 9/11 when Andrew Card whispered in his ear, there's a second. But there again, someone knew there was nothing to worry about.
Cheney and Rumsfeld.
Man,
in my opinion.
again, they're puppets. They're
Yes.
not the brain. They're just the executioners.
They
They're
were
not
the puppets in charge of that.
correct.
There was another one or two people up ahead of them. Like you said, Bush, he may or may not have known, but he didn't really seem too worried about it. You know
He
what I
was a
mean?
team player
Yeah.
on the team of, this was quote unquote 19 guys in some caves. They're barefoot, but they did crack the Pentagon.
Right.
And they did get our 28 cameras on the south wall all turned off. And they did somehow wire the buildings before to collapse, and et cetera, and et cetera. All right, now there's a third event that doesn't really pop up in people's heads because it wasn't successful.
Reagan.
The first
Reagan.
Reagan assassination.
If Reagan had had that assassination attempt been
Bush would have been
successful,
president.
Bush would have been president. So here's a couple of strange oddities, because one thing you'll see in these, you'll start to get an MO for when evil is doing one of its false flags. And one of them is they will have several factions of our government doing practice drills. On 9/11, on the morning of 9/11, there were about a dozen. Now, this is just incredible. A dozen drills happening that mimicked terrorist attack. These are not accidents. And remember, why aren't they on, we would have heard about it. But no, you wouldn't have heard about it because their media's controlled. And you got to understand, these are mostly military people. And what did they do?
Follow
I mean,
orders.
you've got pride. You're
Follow orders. That's
we responded to the Marines and the Army commercials. We put our hand on a Bible and we took an oath. And we do this even in the private sector if you're dealing with the government. Certainly the military, you're taking an oath of loyalty and of secrecy where you do not talk about this. And even some of the guys that do come out and talk about it, like Kevin Shipp, SHIPP, former CIA, who he just tells you exactly what's going on. It's not a secret. So we're all the whistleblowers. He's one of 1,000, and they're out there talking. And he even acknowledges, he goes, look, man, I'm in danger of going to prison just for saying some of this stuff. Like, I can go right up to an edge, but if I go... So there's a lot more he wants to say that he won't, maybe. And a lot of people that talk about these things, they
end up dead.
They end up just plain old...
You said something about, just a minute ago, about if Reagan was assassinated and Bush was president. Remember, for like 2 or 3 hours, no one knew who was in charge because Bush was somewhere else. He wasn't around. So I can't remember the dudes' names that are right off the top of my head, but they were all fighting.
They were.
Like, who's in charge? And
yes.
The Speaker of the House dude.
Oh, is this when Alexander Haig said,
Haig.
oh, I'm in charge now here at the
like
White
the
House?
Secretary of Defense or some shit. He was like 5th or 6th.
It ruined
in
his
line.
political career.
Oh, it killed him. He was done after that. But it was so crazy because at that moment in time, Reagan, we didn't know if he was dead or alive. Bush was somewhere out west or something, and he wasn't available.
Golf.
So whoever was in that circle room, in the war room, they were all fighting each other about who was in charge. Even though Reagan wasn't dead, Bush was still alive. It was like there was a big coup going on inside
Very
the war
Kennedy.
room. You know what I mean?
Hurry.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
so this is one of those interesting correlations that statistically you're going to have a real hard time convincing me that this is just random accident. But are we all aware of that on the morning of 9/11, factions of the Bush family and factions of the Bin Laden family were having meetings? Do you guys know all this?
Carlyle Group, right? Carlyle Group, I believe.
I don't know what the business. This was for their Saudi oil.
Yes.
It had to do with some oil.
Meeting.
Okay, it's just strange that on the morning of 9/11, the family that is related to the poster boy of who the bad guy is, Osama bin Laden, 3-name guy, Lee Harvey Oswald, Osama bin Laden, he's meeting with the Bush family. In fact, if you remember, all flights were grounded for a few days after 9/11.
It's crazy.
And there was but except for one flight, there was one flight allowed out of the United States. You know who it was?
Bin Laden.
The Bin Laden family.
It was his cousin or nephew or some crap like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
cousins,
now let's flash
family,
back.
100 and something people.
Let's flash back to Ronald Reagan. Another odd coincidence. Now, that wasn't a successful operation.
Crazy.
Now, the day before Reagan was shot, the Secret Service were rehearsing drills. What would happen if the president were assassinated? I think that's kind of strange. You can, and Meigs, you should be able to pull this up. But how strange that on what would have been another one of the biggest days in American history, the Bush family is meeting with whom?
Hinckley.
The family of John Hinckley Jr.
Yep.
Get the F out of here.
That's what I mean.
I'm sorry, man.
Yes.
I am sorry.
Yes, when you start looking back at this stuff, like, you feel. I'm not sure if I'm more pissed that they do it or that that we've been duped
and that was
over it.
that was mine and yours conversation when we left your movie.
Yeah.
We were pissed. We were like, how do we not know about this? It's right in front. It's been right in front of our face for the last 10 years. How did it take you? It took you. It took Jennifer Champagne and you.
An act of God is what it was,
whatever.
dude.
It took you and Jennifer Champagne.
You're gonna by December, dude. You are gonna be You're gonna be enrolling to be a priest.
It
in
took
Catholic
you and
Church.
Jennifer Champagne to come in here and talk to Tony and I that night on Hot and Easy.
Right.
And then us going and seeing that movie the following Friday, and then you coming in on Tony's show. I think it was that next Sunday or whatever it was. But it took that to get me pissed and knowing about it, even though there had been 2 or 3 movies already about 9/11. Plus all.
There've actually been a ton.
Well,
of
there was
them.
3 there was the 3 big ones. There was Loose
Change, Ground Zero.
Yeah, there was 2 or 3 of them that were really big that I had never watched, and I didn't watch until I saw his movie.
Well, they brought up, they made. Here's where you got the straw man of Alex Jones when they started, because he had brought it up. He was talking about it. In fact, he brought it up prior. Same thing with the big guy, Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper all predicted it prior. I mean, it had already happened in '93. To think that they wouldn't try something like that again is, it's, what I'm saying is you could say,
What was
I
that dude's
predict
name?
this is going to happen.
Bill Cooper.
No, the dude that tried in '93.
Muhammad Mohammed
Youssef.
Yeah,
Youssef,
yeah.
And he had a bunch of handlers, FBI handlers. If you watch the movie, they knew what was going. It was kind of a setup deal.
How many
It's all a
times?
scam.
I mean, you start to see how the scam works because I see headlines. I don't even really look at the news anymore, but I still catch it because it's just so ubiquitous. But I'll see like a, FBI foils terrorist plot, and then you go in and look at the details. And basically, what it was you got like an entire squad, an FBI squad, terrorist team squad. And my best friend, he's on a narc squad. And so he tells me how they operate, what they do, like how this works. So they find this potential terrorist. They actually groom him.
Correct.
They
Help him.
yes, it's almost like an entrapment of a ridiculous degree. And at the last second, they substitute fake explosives or fake drugs for the real thing. But every now and then, I think maybe they're like, well, let's go through with this one. And they do so much of this, there's always something ready to pop. Although they do seem to plan things out well ahead of time, which I think, Meegs, you found. You were even surprised. And you're a conspiracy theorist.
Oh my gosh, it's staggering. I have the Hinckley thing pulled up, by the way. Reagan's attempted assassin. Yeah, his family donated a lot to the Reagan's presidential campaign, and Bush's campaign too. And Hinckley's older brother Scott had a dinner date scheduled at the home of Neil Bush, the vice president's son, the day after the assassination attempt on Reagan. It's all, I mean, these people are most likely, these families are part of, they're elite families orchestrating all this behind closed doors, and they have patsies that they'll sacrifice, or MK Ultra, people that have gone through satanic ritual abuse or MK Ultra type mind control, to be the fall guy or the patsies that do this kind of stuff, like the Sarans.
Yeah, do me a favor. Look up Jimmy Carter assassination attempt from Oswald Lee Harvey. Tell me if you find anything on that.
Okay.
Really? Carter?
Yeah, I think Jimmy Carter was stepping out of line. And look, these are humans at the end of the day. You're not special because yes, when you hold that office, there's something regal about it. But a lot of them are just regular dupes.
Right.
Some of them are like cold down with the
They know
system.
what's going on, yeah.
Kennedy, for instance, I think he comes from an Illuminati family that has a massive division in it.
Prohibition, yeah.
Where the family is moving in, there's
Different.
portions of this family. So look,
His old man was a bootlegger.
his old man was already famous before his sons were
Way
famous.
famous.
Now that's Joe Kennedy, who built the Merchandise Mart in Chicago, which for a while, maybe it still is the largest commercial. Now Pentagon is the largest building, but Merchandise Mart in Chicago was the largest commercial building in the world in terms of square footage. And this is where the Kennedy fortune came from. Now that fortune came from
Bootlegging.
Prohibition,
Right.
bootlegging.
He was huge
They
with
still
the
get a
New
dollar
York and
a
Chicago
bottle.
Mafia. He was like he went to Capone and those guys to get
Doesn't surprise me.
his son elected.
Yeah, but doesn't
Or
he?
Giancana wasn't.
I think the family still receives like a $1 per bottle of bourbon or something. There's
Probably.
still some type of deal that's locked in with the Kennedys for
I
alcohol.
wouldn't-
Very possibly. Wouldn't surprise me at all. So Joe Kennedy was already on the national scene, the Kennedy father. And he had made a comment once. He's like, look, 50 men run this country, and that's about it. And it's people you don't know. It's not who's in the news. So his son gets into office, and he starts seeing. Now we now know. Back then, the media used to protect the presidency, but he was having affairs constantly. Okay, we're all aware of this. Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Marilyn Monroe.
Maryland.
And, well, there was more. There was
Yeah.
Jean Harlow. There was all kinds of.
Secret tunnels.
The
Yeah,
significant
depends
one
on
that
how
I was going to bring up.
interested.
You guys know who Mary Pinchot Meyer is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so she was one of his lovers. She was married to CIA Cord Meyer. So they have this affair. Now, some of the love letters Kennedy wrote to Mary Pinchot Meyer, One of them just sold on auction for like $90,000
Wow.
Wow.
like a few years ago. This is recent. So here's what's interesting, because now things start to get corroborated. And now we bring Brian Leary of LSD fame into the picture. So,
Wow.
thank
Timothy
you.
Leary.
Who's Brian Leary?
I don't know.
Trust
Trust me, I know
His
all about the
brother.
LSD. I know all about the
No, we're
LSD.
talking about his.
It's
Not a lot of
crazy.
people
His
knew his
mushroom
brother,
selling
but he
brother.
was on LSD
It's
too.
like Billy Carter or Roger Clinton.
Right.
Forgotten.
All right. Timothy Leary of Harvard fame,
Yeah.
who,
Acid trials and all that
Susan
stuff.
Sarandon's friend, correct?
yeah, and
That's Tim Robbins.
so he writes a book, Timothy Leary. Now we've sort of, in a sense, discounted him a little bit because we're like, oh, LSD psycho. You know, that's just that's the image, at least
You know
that
what LSD was for, right?
mind control.
It was originally for people that had schizophrenia. It's a schizophrenic drug. It got them, like, they would take LSD and it made them equal. Where it takes us,
Kinda
it makes
like-
us schizophrenic.
Kind of like if I take like a what's that, Ritalin, then you calm down
So,
if you're a
yeah,
spaz.
I'll tell you all about that when we get off the air. That was my old man. I thought my whole career growing up as a kid, I was just a class clown and wasn't really that smart. And when my mom passed away, I started seeing my wife, my ex-wife, and she's a special ed professor. And she was like, "You have the worst case of ADHD I've ever seen in my entire life." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" So I went and said something to my aunt, my godmother, and she's like, "Eric, we knew that since you were 7 years old. You were on Ritalin, but your dad was stealing your Ritalin, so we took you off of it." But yeah, it's the Ritalin would calm me down. That's why
Yeah.
when I smoke, it's like an upper to me. Like a lot of people puts them to sleep. I'm cleaning the house.
Right.
Doing all
Anytime
kinds of
I've
stuff,
ever
so-
taken, as an adult, ever taken like Adderall or anything, just for fun, it doesn't do anything to me because I have ADD so
Exactly.
bad.
So it doesn't do anything
It calms
to you.
me
yeah.
down completely.
Adderall,
It's
like,
yeah, I feel normal
It
now.
kicks
Thank
up
you.
my like. I've taken
They
it
call
before.
They call it college cocaine
But you're
or
probably
something like
not
that because
ADD
it's,
like we are.
yeah, you probably don't have ADHD or
Right.
ADD. You're probably
Yeah.
just regular. So when you take
But
it,
it helps like.
it heightens your senses.
Yeah,
It's-
everything
See,
gets
not me.
clear.
Right,
You
well,
can
It's like-
pulling
So if I-
dates out of
if
your
I,
ass.
if I take
but-
Adderall or Concerta,
You
or
feel normal like I
whatever,
do.
it just mellows me out. You know what I mean? So I'm.
Yeah, it's no
like,
fun.
Like if you guys were to have a camera underneath the table, both my legs, it's like I'm on a double drum set right now. My legs are bouncing. I'm
Yeah.
fiddling with stuff. I have the worst case of ADHD ever. Not
But
really,
you'll take something. And
but
it'll
I'll take
start-
something, and all of a
yeah.
sudden I'm
Yeah.
just mopey, and I'm not me. So I
Same.
took it when I went to school, when I went to college, but I didn't take it. I don't take it on a regular day basis because
Right.
I wouldn't be me if I wasn't.
Right.
you
A lot
know?
of people take it because it has an upper effect. And
But that's what and I'll get right back to the LSD. That's what LSD was. LSD was for schizophrenic patients. They gave it to them to, equal them out, and they didn't. That third personality wasn't there anymore.
Right.
But as soon as that LSD was gone, boom, they were freaking out, and 3 different people, and all
Well,
kinds of
they're
crazy
doing studies lately about mushrooms, and they're saying that it's really good for people who are depressed. And
That
it
was
can
the headaches,
normal,
the
you know,
migraines.
Yeah.
yeah,
with
it can
mushrooms.
normal you out if you have ADD. Like, not a lot. You don't want to
Make you
trip
walk in
out.
front of a
but-
bus.
Say that again.
But it can also make you want to walk in front of a bus.
That's
no,
right.
they're
That's
the
what they
trials that
say.
they're doing aren't like overload of mushrooms.
Microdosing, that's
it's
what-
just a small amount, maybe in a
microdose.
pill or something, and it's just bringing people a little elated like feeling, and it takes away depression and stuff. I mean, they're doing studies right now. They might actually allow mushrooms in Denver soon. I just read an article about that, but I feel like if they're not going to regulate it or do it for medical reasons or whatever, and they're just going to let people just, hey, shroom it out, then yes, people may walk in front of a bus, and it's not going to be cool. I don't believe that it's okay to just be, hey, mushrooms are legal, and everyone's running around all tripped out. Like,
All right, well, let's
don't
get
know.
closure on the JFK thing.
Okay.
Because this was interesting. So Brian Leary writes a book.
Timothy Leary.
Damn. There is a Brian Leary from my life, or there's another famous Brian Leary out there.
In your
Timothy
reality,
Leary's
it was
brother, I
always
told you.
Brian Leary.
All right, if I say Brian Leary, I mean Timothy Leary. Good. I don't know the name of the book offhand.
Okay.
I could search for it, but it'll take
okay.
3 minutes and blah. But essentially, one of the stories in there is he's talking about the fact that he is being asked while he's at Harvard. He's getting funding from a CIA-fronted foundation So the CIA is essentially funding his experimentation into LSD. And he forms a relationship with Mary Pinchot Meyer, who's dating the President of the United States on the side. Okay?
Okay.
Now, this is in Timothy's... Dang. This is in Timothy's book, which was a pretty unbelievable story at the time. So he says, the first time they met, she just went over to his house and she just knocked on his door. Old school. And that's how their friendship formed. She sought him out. He started giving her sample LSDs, so she would go back, and the president and some of their inner circle were starting to take these things. And so now this is also echoed by some things that Mary Pinchot had told her friends, and I don't think she ever wrote a book. I don't think she had time to, because she's going to get assassinated inside of a year of when this story happens.
What year was this book made? Because he's got the psychedelic experience, turn on, tune in, your brain is God.
He's got a few of them.
The politics of ecstasy, high priest, exopsychology, chaos and cyber.
No, I'm not sure. I've got it in this spreadsheet. I'll look for it in a sec.
Interperson diagnosis of personality. He's got 30 books. Timothy Leary.
Okay.
We'll have to
Not Brian
research
O'Leary.
this.
Anyway, so the story you're referring to, though.
All right. So she starts talking. So Timothy Leary and she start to have this relationship, and she starts opening up to him about stuff that's going on. And she's like, she's talking about John F. Kennedy. Jack's changing. Like, we hang out where his mind's opening up. He's starting to see what he's involved in. Like, he wants to really change things. So around November 15th, now remember, Kennedy was killed on November 22nd of 63. A week before, Mary Pinchot calls him up. She's freaking out. She's like, they're going to kill him. They're going to kill him. He knows too much. He's trying to change too much. And I suspect what was happening during his presidency, because we only get these historical snippets of some incredible speeches.
He opened up.
We are opposed around the world by a monolithic conspiracy.
Right.
That's a Kennedy speech?
Yeah. Now, he goes on to explain it, and then you've got, the Snopes folks going, oh, he wasn't talking about the Illuminati. He was talking about the communists. Well, communism, they don't send assassins by night. They send armies by day. He described this enemy, which every president, Woodrow Wilson, there was a quote in The Anatomy of a Great Deception. He was he was at the helm of the country when the Federal Reserve Act was passed in 1913.
Wilson, man, if people pay it, go ahead.
Well, he had a quote in his book, The New Freedom, and it was 1913. This was actually before he was president, but he's already a big name in Washington circles. And his quote's along the lines of, he's like, look, and this is in writing. And every quote that's in this book, by the way, I had to see it in its source. It can't be an internet rumor. I've got to see it in writing in its original source or by a witness that was there. But he wrote, I just read it with my own two eyes. He wrote, a lot of powerful men in this world, essentially I'm paraphrasing, the most powerful men in this world feel very comfortable opening up to me. And he goes on to say, there is a force out there that is so powerful, so hidden, so interlocked, so connected, essentially so on top of us that even these most powerful men in the world are afraid to even discuss it. Yeah. Now, he doesn't come out and say devil or Satan.
Right.
But when I read it, that's what I read in between the lines.
They know.
What could be so much more powerful than the most powerful man on earth? I mean, isn't this like our planet? Aren't we the highest surviving? We were given that by God, but I don't think it's by earning it, because I think there's a few billion demons that would disagree about whose place this was. And it's one of the reasons Satan might hate us, because, and I want to say it was Isaiah, but there's a passage somewhere where God is referring to Satan. This is before Satan fell. and he was in the garden of God, which I suspect was the Garden of Eden. He was adorned in jewels. And next thing you know, God puts together us, humanity, this much lower creature. And this is all God ever does, is he lives off of Hail Marys, like these unbelievable. And so he creates humanity and basically puts the angels underneath humans. And a lot of angels did not like this, which
That's the jealousy, right?
could understand.
Yeah.
So Mary Pinchot Meyer then calls, she's freaking out. Timothy Leary tries to calm her down.
Got it.
I know, finally. Eventually I do learn
Glenn
things.
Ross DeMason says Timothy Leary, turn on, tune in, drop out.
That's probably the right book.
Okay.
Certainly
Thanks, Glenn.
the phrase became popular. I don't know if he coined it, but so they ended up the day he was shot. She's now a basket case, and she's like, I got to get out of the country. I got to get out of here.
She figured she's next, right?
She knows. I mean, whatever she knows something that has her scared. She is not afraid of Lee Harvey Oswald. All right, she is afraid of who really killed the Kennedys, and she, just like Jackie Onassis, what was her guttural? They killed him. She even knew it was a they killed him. And if you ask me, now people say, oh, the reason Jackie Kennedy got out of that car was to go get a piece of ear. Okay, maybe, because we do crazy things in the moment. But there are also some images that would seem to say some of those shots might have come from within that limousine. Have you guys ever seen
the guy,
Yes,
the driver?
I've seen that one recently, and I've never seen
Because
that.
that
I saw it
to
a couple years
me,
ago, but people were like, "Oh no, it's not." But
you could also argue it was a reflection of light off of
It looks
Governor
awfully-
McConnell, I want to say, whoever,
Connolly.
Okay. Either way, there was shots coming from everywhere. I mean, every witness in the grassy knoll was saying this.
ducking because they was coming from over their heads.
Everyone said this except for one person, Walter Cronkite, because he said 3 shots. He opened up the big report with 3 shots fired today. How did he know? No one else said 3 shots. So how the heck did that news story? It's
Well,
almost
just
like
just
saying
like Building
it's like-
7.
it's Building 7
Yeah.
all over again. Yeah, the reporters, we don't do reporting. These guys, they read the sheet of paper or the teleprompter.
Yeah.
And what is the price they have to pay for that? They kind of have to look the other way. In exchange for that, they're ushered into restaurants, they're paid a ton of money, and they get wealth and fame.
Yep.
And trust me, I know people that would do that job. There was a time where I would have done that job. Today, you couldn't. Sorry, but that's messing with your
If you
soul.
don't know, or you come up through journalism and you're, groomed, a lot of these people don't realize the deception that they're spewing. Like if you're coming in reading a teleprompter, you're probably such a whiz at it that you don't even realize what you're saying.
Right.
Like Anchorman.
Agreed.
Write anything up
Yeah.
there,
Yeah,
he'll say
he'll
it.
say anything.
Yeah,
You know,
you can
F
be-
you, San
You can be
Diego.
professional.
That's why
and
there's
not
a scene
care.
in AGD2 where Tucker Carlson is, back in 2006, he's like, I know all about Building 7. Yeah, you're crazy for thinking it's a conspiracy. Now, something happened to Tucker Carlson.
Oh, he understands now.
I think he woke up. Because he did the same thing we all do,
He
which
woke.
is we trust the information we were given in school. We trust the information we're given on our
Right.
news. And so things like what happened to you and Eric is you get pissed off when you realize, wait a minute, I've been lied to. I mean, no one likes to be betrayed. I mean, did you ever go through that anger, Meeks? You know what we're
Oh
talking about?
gosh, yeah, absolutely. But now it's just you just become numb to it. Now I'm just more or less like, well, it turns out everything was a lie, basically, except that I learned the earliest. It was the truth of the Bible. That didn't turn out to be a lie, but everything else.
I know that was going to be one of my first examples of predictive programming, which we're going to do next week, which has its origins in Greece. In fact, the ancient Greek Empire, even in the writings of Plato, Aristotle is talking about how even back then there were no television sets, but there was the amphitheaters. Every town had one, and everyone was required to go to the show. And the thespians, the actors, were very controlled in what they could and could not perform.
Sure.
And flash forward to today, there's not a home in the U.S. without a television set. In fact, it's so important. Jimmy, that's why he's
Jimmy
still
does
normal.
not have
Good
a
man,
and Glenn
Jimmy.
DeMason does
I'm
not
saying
have a
in
television.
general.
He doesn't watch television either. So
By the
But
way,
look, there's a reason that China wants to give a television set away to every citizen. It's for
Yes.
control, not as a gift.
1984.
It's dangerous
video
because
killed the radio star.
it is.
so Glenn
Clo-
DeMason just said they're considered news readers, not journalists.
Their agenda.
People
That's
like
ba- that's
Walter
a-
Concrete, Tom Brokaw.
Thank you, Glenn. That's a better way to put it. It's more accurate if you
Well,
ask me.
and don't be deceived because any of these CNN shows or whatever are speculation. They're opinion shows. They're not the news. And a lot of people get fooled by that. They like Cooper, so he comes on. Whatever he says is opinion.
Yeah,
Right.
there was a shift that happened in the early '80s, and this happened as
Video
the
killed the radio star.
yes, and a lot of
Absolutely.
there used to be an FCC rule that you couldn't own more than I think it was 25 news transmitting state. You couldn't own more than 8 in a city. That's why CBS, for instance, could only own 8 radio stations in a given city. Now, little things going on behind the scenes that your average American, just like me, was never clued into. Because I didn't think it was a problem that, so what if so what if you can own 50 stations versus 25? Who gives a care?
Right.
Now I get it.
Now you get it.
Because now there's 5 guys that
Burgers and
decide
fries.
essentially 90% of everything that is consumed, absorbed by the mind in the U.S. is decided by 5 guys. The other 10% is cumulatively 1,000 shows like us.
Do you know who these guys are?
The media.
Oh, the CEOs of the big, and I don't even
Do you
think.
know names?
CNN, NBC, Fox.
And look, and the CEOs of these big, these are big. This is Disney,
Yeah.
ABC. This is
NBC,
GE.
CBS.
This is the Fortune 5. I mean, these are the biggest companies in the world, and even their CEOs, I think, are getting directions from
Oh, for
literally
sure.
the dark priesthood behind all of this junk. And if they don't play along, hell, Larry McDonald is a great example. We'll bring your plane down. Oh, we'll want to go back and hit. We'll bring your ship down. Titanic, 1912. They will. We're not. They don't. They feel helpless. They are at the mercy of something so much more powerful. The only thing they can do to keep protected is to not speak above a whisper when they speak of it, which I think is what Woodrow Wilson was saying. Flash forward to Kennedy and put closure on this Mary Pinchot Meyer. So the story unfolds. Timothy Leary tells of how this unbelievable thing, the president's doing LSD. He's opening up his mind. He's figuring out, like Tucker Carlson, I think, wait a minute, there's a system at work here that I was a part of it. I didn't even see it, and I was at the head of it even. And that's when he starts to do things that really upset the power base. Because what did he do? We know he wanted to
Speaking out.
wipe out the CIA, which
Kennedy. Yeah.
the CIA was made from the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services. It was made up of Nazis. We bring half the Nazis over, the other half go to Russia. Hello, Cold War. And these guys keep practicing their Nazi crap. Now they just are doing it under the cover of national security.
It's so crazy.
Truman regretted. That's one of his quotes. Is setting that CIA up was a big mistake. Eisenhower, same problem. He was president right before Kennedy. Kennedy comes in. He tries to destroy the CIA publicly. I mean, he's about to have laws that break it up. And now history, you go back and look. And what else was he doing? He was also destroying where they get their ultimate power from. The human side, which is financially. It's the banks. Because what was he going to do? I mean, he put, I think it was $5 billion in circulation of silver-backed currency. And whoa, if the elite cabal, the Illuminati, or the establishment, as they were called back then, can't print free money anymore, all their plans go down the toilet. Because it's not that they're really wealthy, it's just we're suckers and we keep playing their game.
He had a partner in Ferdinand Marcos, I believe, that the both of them made this, say, mutual fund or
Deal?
something that was going to cash on later. Yeah, this silver deal. and Marcos got wiped out too. I don't know the exact story there.
Well,
but
that's
there's
why
a
when
connection
Trump
between
was
Marcos
going to meet with
and the World
Putin
Bank.
and QAnon started talking about how Trump is talking financial system. So if you go back to our example from last week, there's no president that can save this. Because right now, all of our money, all of it goes to these banker guys. And then they just release into circulation whatever they want. If they want a depression,
Shop.
you got it. And Trump understands that if we're really going to ever have real freedom in this country, we are going to have to fight, yet again, another revolutionary war. It's the reason we had the first one, was to get away from the banking powers behind the crown of England. So here, we gave up the very right we freed ourselves from, which is the right to print money. Every president went nuts about it. We have to print our own money. Our dumb selves gives that away in 1913. Flash forward 50 years later, it's now 1963. These guys are getting so powerful, they can shut up a president. They can kill a president in broad daylight, and there's no consequences.
Damn.
Think about how, if they can do that to the president, who's safe?
I'm excited to see how this ties into the biblical side.
Well, it ties in because the people that do this, they praise Lucifer. I mean, they are, at the end of the day, they are an evil cabal. They get a lot of their power, not just from like financial instruments on earth, but a lot of it is spiritual, where at the highest levels of these bloodline families, they're actually interfacing with Satan's lieutenants and demons.
Isn't Dealey Plaza some type of sun worship too, and a weird, like a...
Well, Dealey Plaza is a sun
Illuminati?
temple.
Yes.
And Meigs, pull up an overhead of Dealey Plaza, because the first Masonic temple in Texas was built at Dealey Plaza. So if you guys know the grassy knoll,
Yep.
it's that curved structure. It is got an identical equivalent on the other side. So if you look at it from the sky, you've got the caliper and the compass. So
Is that what it transcribes? Okay.
Oh, it's perfect. Meigs,
Compass.
if you pull it up,
I don't know if she can pull it up though.
clear as day. Clear as
Okay.
day. He was killed.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this
yeah.
was a ritual murder at a pagan sun temple. And they had to, do you know how many hoops they had to jump through to get that car to make that unscheduled turn?
And that was a change in the route. Right?
Think about it.
All those
The route was
Oops.
we've seen video. The route
was changed.
it's a
Yes.
parade route. I mean, people are 6 people deep. But all of a sudden, this unscheduled turn, and now they're in a place where there's almost nobody there. I mean, you could have gotten from here to Eric from the limousine. That's how close some of
he
these.
was right out in the open.
And not a lot of witnesses. Now, a lot of those witnesses ended up dying. And so to flash forward, Mary Pinchot Meyer, less than a year after Kennedy's assassinated, now she's said, my life's in danger. I'm dead. She is murdered. She's
Wow.
jogging in Washington, D.C., and I want to say it was it was in the middle of D.C. where the reflecting pool is, or somewhere like
Washington
in a
Monument.
high visibility area. And it was quickly, so it was a mugger, it was a
Sure.
mugging gone bad, but she still had her wallet. Or
That's crazy.
she was jogging, so she didn't even have a purse. So why would a mugger go after her?
Wow.
And then flash forward 30 years after that, or whenever Cord Meyer died, because on his deathbed he said, the people that killed my wife are the same ones that killed the president, which is the people I used to work for, the Central
What a
Intelligence Agency.
Insane.
Couple quotes or couple
Wow.
things on the Facebook live feed. Glenn DeMason says John Connolly said they're going to kill us all.
Yes, they.
He kept saying that. Patricia Woods says the system is based upon the legal name. It's illegal to use on a building block for the Matrix. Google legal name fraud. And then we got Glenn DeMason says Sol Invictus, whatever that, I don't know. So there's Todd Morello says, yo, David, keep it up.
Hey, Todd.
You're
I
all-
went to school.
Aw.
Todd,
Awesome.
we had, I think we had Mr. McKnight in 6th grade, which was very interesting. Okay. So the
Wait,
real.
can I? Oh,
Yes.
are you finished
Yes.
with the
Go for it.
Pinchot? Okay, I've been sitting on this. This is such a crazy
Story.
what you said with Raymond Lee Harvey, who tried to
Tell us
kill
about that.
President Carter. He it says he was hanging out with a guy named Osvaldo, who had been standing 10 feet away from Harvey when he was trying to assassinate Carter. It's like they just use these names. It says the oddity of their names prompted references to Lee Harvey Oswald and the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
Wow.
Ortiz at first denied knowing Harvey, but finally admitted that the pair had gone to the roof of the hotel the night before Carter's visit and fired several blanks from the pistol to see how much noise it would make. Oh, it's just bizarre.
Totally bizarre.
You guys know
Bizarre
about CIA
coincidences.
agent?
And it got me thinking of all the comparisons. Have you guys seen the list of comparisons? Just these weird coincidences, similarities between Abraham Lincoln's
And
death and John F. Kennedy's.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
like Lincoln was killed in a Ford, or Ford was killed in a Lincoln.
Yeah.
Or Kennedy was
Yeah,
killed in a Lincoln.
yeah.
Lincoln was killed at Ford Theater.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like there was all
Yeah.
these things that were, they,
Illuminati.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
get that's where I get.
I was
lost,
going to
like,
say that you guys know about CIA agent Tom Osman. You don't know about Tom Osman?
No, tell me.
Oh yeah,
Tim?
look up
Tim?
CIA agent
Wait. Who
Tom
knows about it?
Osman. Or it could
I
be
think
Tim. It could be
Tim?
Tim. It
Tim
could be Tim or
Osman?
Tom. It might be Tim.
He
You
knows
mean
about it.
Osama bin Laden?
It's an Osama bin Laden.
Oh yeah, yeah. That he was.
So you wonder why his family's flying around in the United States on 9/11.
Yeah, Mujahideen. He's got short hair. He's kind of dressed up looking.
So what was the guy's
Tim
name
Osman.
again?
Tim Osman.
No, the Carter story. You read that?
Oh, Raymond Lee Harvey was the
Raymond Lee Harvey.
attempted assassin.
And he was
Right.
standing next to a guy named
of
Oswaldo.
Jimmy Carter.
Really? Yeah.
And standing next to a guy named Oswald.
Yeah. I mean, you
Osvaldo.
guys, they literally toy. They just toy with us.
I think
Yeah.
there's been things on Trump as well, but we don't see him.
We wouldn't see it.
Attempts.
All right, let's play a little game here for 5 minutes. This is going to determine who's buying the first beer. All right, so we talked about weather modification, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to give you a quote that was spoken to Congress, which I probably lost it.
You've got this, Hoops.
Okay. Here's the quote. Tell me what year this was made.
Okay.
Okay, this was made by a U.S. senator. Here's the quote, and I'll tell you the name and the year in a second. The U.S. and other world powers should sign a treaty to outlaw the tampering with weather as an instrument of war.
All right, so you guys were saying something about Vietnam, so I'm going to say
That wasn't even the strong one.
I'm going to say 1955.
Oh, God.
Guess
my
the year.
Oh.
What year? Yes.
1947.
Meeks, 47. Kelly Jean?
66.
Tony?
I would say 19. When was the war? 65? Vietnam?
That's when we started getting the
I'd say 63.
advisors. All right.
63. All right, what year was it?
It was 1979. It was by a guy named Claiborne Pell. He was a
Kelly
U.S.
Jean was
senator.
closest without going over.
Great job.
Cool. Ding, 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 ding.
That one, that one's not riveting. There's a couple of others. Let's see if we can get to them here. So
Well, I
who
get a
won that
prize.
round?
3 minutes, broski.
3 minutes. I won that round.
Yeah, KJ won that one.
Great job.
Okay.
Whoop, whoop.
Here's another one. Techniques of weather modification could be employed to produce prolonged periods of drought or storm, thereby weakening a nation's capacity and forcing it to accept the demands of the competitor.
So we need to figure out a year on this one, too.
Yeah, what year do you think that was?
Russian years.
Well, that last name was 79, so I'm going to say a few years before that. 72, when I was born.
Read the quote one more
Yeah,
time.
please. What's that say?
We only have 3 minutes, so read it fast.
Techniques of weather modification could be employed to produce prolonged periods of drought or storm, thereby weakening a nation's capacity and forcing it to accept the demands of the competitor.
55.
I'll say 1980. Reagan, what year is Reagan?
80. Meigs?
1950.
What year?
That was 1968.
Damn it.
Who's closest?
It was by
Kelly
Dr.
Jean.
Gordon.
Oh!
All right.
2 in a row, baby. 2
Ty-
in a row.
All right, let's.
You've been 13 years
I get
off on
tater
both.
tots
Hey,
tonight, Hoops.
hoops. She said 66. It was 79. That's 13 years. She said 55. It was 68. That's 13 years.
All right.
She's been off on 13. She's been 13 on each one.
Weird.
Okay. Let's do one more.
We don't have.
We got one
We
more.
got enough for one more.
We
Make
can't-
it compelling.
We can't do the year one, but here we go. The first scientifically controlled and monitored effort, generally recognized by the meteorological community as constituting weather modification, occurred in blank when Dr. Irving Langmuir first experimented with artificially seeding clouds in order to produce rain. His experiments showed positive results, sparking tremendous interest in the field nearly overnight.
So what's the blank? The year?
The blank is, what year was this? This was a chemist. Now,
I'm going to say 1960. 60.
Wow. I'm going to say 79.
Meigs?
I'll say 1949.
49.
are you looking at my screen? Because it was 1948.
Oh,
Hey,
Meeks
Meeks.
gets
So-
Meeks gets
No, actually,
Oh, wait.
Charles does because she went over by a year. If we're doing Price is Right style,
No. Meeks was closest.
Meigs is close.
Meeks wins.
Here, let's squeeze one more in.
High five through the screen, girl. Whoop, whoop.
Russia,
Yeah, woo!
Russia and the United States. Russia and the United States have worked. This guy's a CIA insider. His name is Bob Fletcher. He, by the way, he has survived 3 different assassination attempts. So that now, to me, sounds like a credible guy. He said, Russia and the United States have worked together hand in hand for 20 years in developing weather control. The Russians were here at Lawrence Livermore Labs cooperatively working and received an award for some of the work on weather control. It is a project that has been done many years ago. What is it?
Harp.
What is it?
What year?
Oh,
Oh, geez.
what year?
Yep,
year did
that's the
Harp
year,
start?
man.
What year is this the quote?
What year did Harp start?
You know, let's forget. Let's just say, did Kelly Jean win the contest?
I did.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes, I
because
did.
this was 1997.
I
We
never
could go
looked
on
at that.
because weather modifications.
I have one more.
Yeah,
we do have
squeeze
time
it.
for one. Okay.
Hurry up, talk fast.
Guess the president. Okay. It lays the predicate and foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather. Semicolon. And he who controls the weather will control the world.
Putin.
Kennedy.
Eisenhower.
It's LBJ.
Oh,
In
I was
1962.
super crook. Yeah, that's a real. Wilson's a crook too.
All right, well, you guys, I think that would wrap it up for today. We did an
Yeah,
excellent
listen,
job. So
we will be
awesome.
better organized next
And I
week.
won. We're going to keep
We
it
were
at that.
organized this week. We just
No,
had the
I
pictures.
guess let me rephrase. I won't screw up next week. We are going to do next week. We are going to show images,
Bye,
just
Meeks.
some jaw droppers.
Thank God.
We're going to show
Meeks.
images that aren't just us.
We love you. At
Bye,
the end of the
Meeks.
day, yes, we do talk about evil, not to shed light on evil, but to show that the balance of that is, in fact, a real force in this world. And that is
Absolutely.
the other side of evil, which is
Oh, yeah.
the powers above made up. I don't know how they all work together. Jesus, God, the Holy Spirit, and all the angels. Whoever it is that keeps the Illuminati from killing us, that is who you want to get lined up with.
And this has been
The
401
401
show.
It has
And
been.
we will be back, you guys, next week. Check us
Praise
out. Thank
Jesus.
you for watching. and
Love
listening.
you
you guys
guys. Thanks
Bye,
for
guys.
listening.
Episode 3.
Bye, Meeks.
Bye, guys.
Take care, honey.
Bye, Niggs.
And let us know when we're off air so we don't get caught.
We're probably out.